Hey, welcome to Coca-Cola Wood Studio. My name is Jason and I'm an amateur woodworker from Canada. This is not only my first video, it is also the first time I've ever edited a video, so please be gentle with me. What you're looking at here is a piece of junk CNC router that I built from scratch. I call it junk because it's literally made from leftover scraps and bits and pieces I've rescued from the garbage at work. Anything new that I have purchased has been the cheapest possible option I could find. This machine has been set up here in this spot for about 5 years now. I've used it maybe once or twice per month on average, but I have never really done any maintenance or service to it at all. The main reason I'm going over everything here today is that I need to tram the router bed. It is frustrating to try and get a flat surface on your workpiece if the cutting tool is not perfectly set up with the bed. In order to achieve this, I need to first dial in all three axes in respect to each other. Because the machine cuts okay and doesn't bind, I've never bothered to ensure that all the axes were properly parallel or perpendicular to each other. Even though I call this a piece of junk, which it is, I mean, it still does cut really, really well for what it is. Later in the video, I'll try and find a few photos and put them up in the video so that you can see some of the work that it's done in the past and hopefully enjoy that. Anyways, for now, I'm going to speed things up for a while, and if I have anything to say, I will jump in and say it. That round disc that I just pulled off the bed there is actually a crib board that I've made, and it depicts the Three Sisters mountain range in Canmore, Alberta, and it has the Canadian logo on it. You may not be able to see it. Great shot of it here. We're a little far away, but again, like I said at the end of the video, I will try and do some more close-up pictures of these things here. Here I've noticed that the Z-axis limit switch is a little off kilter. It's not set quite right, and the Z-axis crashed into the hard stop limits. I am going to just adjust the limit switch and rehome that axis. Here, as the Z-axis is moving along the X-axis towards the left, you can hear a nasty squealing noise, and that's actually the ball nut that travels on the ball screw. It has lost the ability to accept grease, let's call it that. Later on, I try to repack it and reinsert all the ball bearings into it, but it's only a 12 millimeter lead screw or ball screw, sorry, and it was just too difficult. So I bought a new one, and in the next video I'll install it and I'll show how that all works, and then that should solve that squealing noise. What I'm doing here is setting up a scrap piece of wood, I think it's ash, and I'm going to put my biggest bit that I have on the router. It's a 1.5 inch sort of fly cutter. And what I want to do is take great big fat passes on that scrap piece of wood and see which way the cutting head is leaning, one way or the other. And then I'm going to try to adjust it. I change my tactic in a little bit, and I'll explain that when we get to that part of the video. So it turns out here that I thought my batteries were dead on the keyboard and mouse, but it turns out that it was actually faulty hardware. And so I had to order a new keyboard and mouse, and that took a day to arrive. So here's where I change my strategy a little bit, and what I'm doing is getting a dial indicator ready to make sure that my x-axis and y-axis are 90 degrees from each other, and also that the x-axis is perpendicular to the y-axis. I'm setting up a straight edge here on the y-axis rails where the dial indicator can run along and measure if the x-axis is too high on one side or too low on the other side, or whatever the case may be. At this point, I've already ordered a new ball nut for the x-axis, and will take a couple days to get here, so that'll probably be in the next video when I install that and quiet this machine up a little bit. So off camera, I fiddled around with the Z-axis alignment because it took me a while, and I just didn't want to record the same old thing over and over again. But I eventually got it dialed in. Now I'm going to go back to my original setup where I was going to mill wide passes on my scrap board, and I will finalize the angle of the Z-axis compared to the table. The goal is to remove any milling marks on the board. I mean, there will always be marks there no matter what I do, but I want to remove the ridges. That is the whole point of this whole setup that I'm doing here. Once again, I was having troubles with the keyboard and mouse. I restarted the program, wasn't sure what was going on yet. And like I said, I've already ordered a new keyboard and mouse, but it won't be here until the next day. Once again, using cheap stuff. It's having problems with my limit switch on the Y-axis. I'm trying to blow all the dust out of that area. See if I can clean that up a little bit. I think those limit switches cost me like $1 each off of Amazon. So anyway, if you buy cheap stuff, you get cheap results. That's the lesson of this story. And here I actually messed up my 0 on my Z-axis, and I cut way too deep. It was almost a ½ an inch deep. You can see the smoke coming up from the bit. But because I had already gone that far on it, I just decided, and the machine didn't skip a beat, so I just decided to let it roll, and then take lighter passes after that. Because I was taking such a heavy pass on this setup here, the bit actually dislodged my workpiece from the clamps that I had there, so I had to set it back up again to finish that cut. And at this point, I was happy with the Y-axis setup of the bit, the angle of the bit, I guess. And now I'm setting up for the X-axis test and adjustment. For this one, I actually end up putting some pop can shims in behind the router holder on the x-axis so that I could tilt the router back a little bit. The first shim that I put in there was 2 layers of pop can, and I decided I needed 1 more layer of pop can. And this turns out to work perfectly. So at this point, I'm taking off the spoil board because I need to flatten that board that my hand's on right now. I don't flatten the spoil board itself because it's a already perfect dimension and it's flat already. So if I flatten this lower layer and then put the spoil board back on, it turns out to be perfect with all the slots and the holes and everything in for positioning and clamping down my workpieces. Unfortunately, this is where my mouse finally died 100%. It wouldn't click any buttons anymore. I could move the cursor around, but it just wasn't doing anything, so I had to stop. So I've decided that this will be a good end of this video, and I'll post some pictures of some of the products that I've made on this CNC. And next video, we'll be flattening that spoil board and doing a few more upgrades, and also replacing the ball nut. Thanks for being patient with me on my first video, and if you enjoyed this, I'd appreciate if you could like the video and or subscribe, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.